Ladies and gentlemen, William Barr has intervened to help Paul Manafort. This is a fantastic thing, and it's something that drives Democrats absolutely batty. William Barr's Justice Department is now openly running legal interference for Paul Manafort. This is Slate. Fantastic. Fantastic. Paul Manafort should never have been indicted, even if he did commit crimes, because the Muller probe was an overarching, overreaching, all-encompassing, overly broad, ambiguous, tremendous abuse of state power, of political retribution. The Mueller report was started by Comey's leaked memos that are classified, based on a Steele dossier that was complete and utter rubbish and nonsense, based on two intelligence reports that literally state the intelligence community does not guarantee, nor does it provide any warranties or certainty that the DNC was even hacked. And then we find out recently that the DNC never even, that CrowdStrike, the third-party tech firm outsourced by the DNC, never gave its assessment, its analysis directly to the FBI. No. They gave it to the DNC, and the DNC then relayed whatever it wanted to the FBI. But let's read this. William Barr is once again doing the right thing. He's pushing back against what essentially was the United States government working as an extension of the Democratic Party. So he's making sure that that Manafort doesn't go to this notorious, infamous, brutal prison, Rikers, in New York. But how can that be? Because I thought that New York was run by wonderful, ethical, moral liberals. Why do you have such egregious criminal justice violations in New York, of all places, run by de Blasio and Cuomo and Gillibrand and all these wonderful people, and Schumer? They're such wonderful, great liberals, and yet you hear these horror stories at Rikers. Well, William Barr did the right thing. Manafort's, 75, in his mid-70s. He was the scapegoat. He was like a sacrificial lamb that they went after. He had absolutely nothing to do with any alleged interference that didn't take place. The Russians did not interfere in the election. Name me one American citizen that altered their votes because of Facebook ads. Give me any data on which Facebook ads were most effective in swing states. They don't have any of that. And then the DNC emails, that showed corruption within the Democratic Party. That's not the fault of any messenger. Again, we have no clue if the DNC was even hacked by Russia. We just found out the other day that CrowdStrike gave its analysis of DNC servers to the DNC, the company, the political organization that outsourced it, that gave it money. The conflict of interest there is obvious. They would never allow Trump strike. Do you think that the DNC Democrats, the media, would say, "Oh yeah, Trump outsourced a tech firm to corroborate the RNC's claims. Oh yeah, Trump purchased a dossier that says the golden muumuu likes bodily fluids being rained down upon her. Enjoy the visual." Let's read Slate. William Barr's Justice Department is now openly... Why aren't I 50 ounces ahead, you might ask? William Barr's Justice Department is now openly running legal interference for Paul Manafort. Good. Fantastic. Anything to anger Democrats, I'm all for. Fantastic. William Barr is doing a solid job. Donald Trump's Department of Justice has decided to run interference for Paul Manafort, protecting him from harsh imprisonment. What did he do? This was, by the way, in 2005 and 2006, and then they tried to get him on false statements to the FBI in 2016, 2017, which the FBI was completely corrupt and run by Andrew McCabe, who's now under criminal investigation himself, and James Baker, who's now under criminal investigation himself, and Peter Strzok, who now we know we will stop Trump, so we know all of this. But This effort to aid the president's loyal associate behind bars is a startling escalation of Attorney General William Barr's campaign to help Trump and his Confederates even evade consequences for their misdeeds. The guy is in his 70s. He was caught up. I mean, they got him on crimes that could have easily been linked to, I don't know, Madam Cyberhack's, Clinton's campaign chairman's brother, who was working with both Gates and Manafort. And I wrote about that. In the Daily Caller. Okay, Tony Podesta could have easily been convicted of all of these crimes. He was working with Manafort and Gates, doing the same things that Manafort was essentially indicted for. But let's continue. Manafort, Trump's former campaign chairman, was convicted of fraud and tax evasion in 2018, then pleaded guilty to illegal foreign lobbying and witness tampering. He was first prosecuted by special counsel Robert Mueller, who secured a 7.5-year federal prison sentence earlier this year. Manhattan District Attorney Cy Vance brought 16 additional charges. 16 charges. You got to get the guy. You got to put Manafort in jail for 1,000,000 years. He has to suffer because Trump won. It's Clinton literally allowed, the FBI literally allowed Clinton's attorneys to dictate their investigation through consent agreements. The FBI under Peter Strzok and James Comey signed actual contracts, consent agreements with Clinton's lawyers saying that the United States of America the FBI could not look at Clinton Foundation emails or it couldn't break any other parameters they gave. They couldn't see certain laptops. They couldn't see certain emails. They had to acquiesce. They literally had negotiations with Clinton's attorneys. Meanwhile, they're sending Manafort off for things that, again, Clinton's campaign chairman's brother did the same things. This is all public relations. This is an Orwellian public relations stunt where the Mueller probe led to nothing, no evidence of any collusion or any campaign finance violations, nothing. Notice that when they, and one of my amazing subscribers brought this to my attention, notice that when they indicted, because when I keep saying, I've stated for a long time, that when they indicted Russian intelligence officers, they used Company 1 CrowdStrike's assessment. But notice something. How come there were no co-conspirators? So when Mueller would have you believe, this is so absurd. The Mueller probe would have you believe that, they indicted the intelligence officers from the Kremlin. And the Kremlin, tried to hack the DNC to inform the country that Bernie Sanders was cheated. Notice how nobody talks about Bernie Sanders being cheated and Debbie Wasserman Schultz being forced to resign. Even Bernie doesn't have the conviction or the courage to say that. He'll go down as one of the most cowardly political figures in U.S. history. This guy was cheated, doesn't tell the truth. Bernie Sanders knows the Russians didn't hack the DNC to inform the country that he was cheated, and he never even cared about being cheated. Hillary Clinton is running again. Yes, she's running. She has until November. So every day that she doesn't announce doesn't mean she's not going to run. She's spent her entire life running for president. Do you think she's going to let something like a loss in 2016 get in her way? Of course not. You think they're going to roll with Botox Biden? One bad injection, God forbid, it's game over. So she's not going to. I'm joking about so. There's gonna be one way somehow she slides in and she's gonna be like, I'm here, and everyone's gonna be like, this is our only chance. We have to rally around Clinton, and it's going to happen. So when people are like, she's not running, dude. She's not running, dude. She's not running, dude. She's not running, dude. Dude, she's running. I mean, it's like one of those old 90s movies. Dude, she's running. Dude, she's running. And the reason is because the Democrats have nobody. They can't win with Biden. And whether or not they can win with Clinton, at least she'll raise his money. She'll raise over $2 billion. She raised $1.2 billion and still lost. She has to raise over $2 billion because they have the only chance they could possibly have of winning. They must outspend Trump 2-1. They outspent Trump 2-1 last time, and he lost. I mean, they lost, and he won. So he's going to raise over $1 billion for his reelection. She'll raise over $2 billion. And if just watch it happen. I was saying that Clinton would lose in 2015. Everyone thought I was nuts. Oh my God, I was right. Anyway, and I wrote that in the Hill, the Huffington Post, and Salon. And definitely check out my segment on my article that Rush Limbaugh shared in the Federalist. And then one person critiqued me yesterday. He's like, I don't want to hear any more about your narcissism. All I do is hear about your stupid article that was talked about by Rush Limbaugh and the fact you wrote for the Huffington Post. Well, you know what? Thankfully, thank goodness, the channel's growing. So people who maybe, I've had like 1,000 subs the past week and a half or so. So they didn't know all of this. I'm just going to explain to them what I've done, if you don't mind. Anyway, Manafort, Trump's former campaign chairman, was convicted of tax fraud and tax evasion. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, they went after him. They went after him only because they needed a public relations. They were calling him a traitor, but he didn't do anything. He never committed. So Democrats were like, this guy's a traitor. Like, what did he do? Well, he was associated with a lot of bad things. They cannot give you an example of anything treasonous that he did. Well, he shared polling data. What? You could just log on to the internet and you could have seen all the polling data from the 538, the Washington Post, New York Times, all of this, which was all wrong. And when they say, well, the polls were accurate, she won by 3, but yeah, she outspent Trump 2-1. What Democrats don't understand, what they'll never understand, is that the popular vote is a function of the money spent during the election. If you have a Republican that outspends a Democrat, they'll very likely win the popular vote. Or I should say, if you have a Republican with just media bias from the early 2000s, liberal media bias from the early 2000s, not this like hyper-partisan extension of the Democratic Party. If you had media that was just somewhat leaning left, not basically Debbie Wasserman Schultz writing every headline, and then you had Republicans outspending Democrats, there's no way Democrats would get the popular vote. No way. They barely got the popular vote. She outspent Trump 2-1. And she had every single major media company backing her. So they're like, well, we got to do it with the Electoral College. Then they'll lose the popular vote. Then then Democrats will lose the popular vote, and they'll be like, oh, what happened? Oh. Anyway, Manafort is currently housed in Loretto, a federal prison in southwest Pennsylvania. Vance's office requested his transfer to a New York facility. Typically, federal prisoners await trial in New York State court are held. Typically, federal prisoners awaiting trial in New York State court are held in the notoriously brutal Rikers Island jail. Gee, why would Rikers Island be so brutal? I thought Democrats were into social and economic and political justice. Why would Rikers be so? Oh, that's right, because they're hypocrites. Oh, that's right, because when they run cities and then when they run states, it's all good when they engage in notoriously brutal tactics, especially when it comes to prison reform, which, by the way, Trump signed the First Step Act. He signed prison reform legislation. Of course, he doesn't get any credit from the left. Actually, Van Jones gave him a wonderful, wonderful praise and wrote actually a brilliant article at CNN. CNN actually published this 10 reasons why President Trump's First Step Act, or the First Step Act, is a great thing. But, okay, in May, Manafort attorney Todd Blanche wrote a letter to Vicky Moser, Loretto's warden, protesting this transfer. Blanche asked that Manafort be allowed to remain in Loretto to address his health challenges. So they don't care, like, the way Democrats work, they're like, let this old guy suffer. They don't care. They're like, he was tied to something bad. They don't care. They want to see retribution. They want revenge for losing. They want to feel good about themselves, especially now after the 2-year Mueller probe is done. Notice how, like, the Democratic Party is deflated. Like this, like, parade balloon that is now just, completely deflated and, like, resting, like, without any air on the asphalt of the street. Notice that just like on the pavement, this just deflated giant balloon called the Democratic Party. It used to be, oh my goodness, what a great parade float of Mueller, and you had Avenatti. Look at those like parade floats like down like Fifth Avenue or Broadway. Like you had like Avenatti and Mueller and all these great giant and Adam Schiff, and now they're all deflated. There is no more Mueller probe. There's no more Mueller probe. There's no more they didn't even talk about Russia anymore. Now they're all over the place. They don't know what to do. Now they're stuck with their candidates. Like, oh my God, how long can we hold out before the Golden Moo enters? This is really bad. They have a B team. They have an A team regarding the debates. But anyway. So, and Blanche had other reasons his client deserves special treatment. Manafort Blanche is being prosecuted in New York for exactly the same conduct for which he's already been tried and sentenced in federal court. Wow. The New York prosecution thus appears to be a blatant violation of states' long-standing and highly protective double jeopardy laws. Then the slate goes, by itself, this letter would be unremarkable. What is remarkable, indeed shocking, is that the Deputy Attorney General, the second highest law enforcement official in the country, seemed to implicitly endorse Blanche's complaints. Jeffrey Rosen. This is Rod Rosenstein's replacement. Okay, do you think any of this would happen with Sessions? No. Try Sessions. Every once in a while, I get the little message. Q knew this. What? Q, we knew this all. Q knew this all along. Okay. To say anything. On June 11th, Jeffrey Rosen forwarded the letter to Vance's office and asked for a response before federal officials made a decision about moving Manafort to New York. Rosen even gave Vance a deadline, asking him to respond within a week. And then eventually, Vance responded to Blanche's accusation. New York charges are illegal violation of double jeopardy. For the record, Blanche is probably right that some charges in the New York indictment should fall under the state's. Wow. Okay, so even Slate agrees with that. If he does, the task will fall to states to hold Manafort accountable for his crimes. Oh my goodness, crimes that generally aren't given such major sentences. You go back in time, how many people are given 10, 20-year sentences? Well, he is a 7.5 year, but they want to add like 10, 15, 20 years to a sentence. These are criminal acts that like I said, Clinton campaign chairman's brother did the same thing. First, the Department of Justice, so recently responsible for putting Manafort behind bars, is now attempting to keep him as comfortable as possible until Trump issues his pardon. Yes, President Trump first needs to pardon and clear completely General Michael Flynn. Then George Papadopoulos, then Manafort, because the Mueller probe was an unlawful example or an unlawful abuse of state power. It was filled with illegal acts, filled with just because you accuse Trump based on a dossier that was purchased by Clinton, based on a CrowdStrike assessment that was outsourced by the Democratic Party, based on Alexander Downer's gossip and hearsay based on the suspicion of James Comey, who's completely discredited, and people like Andrew McCabe is under criminal investigation for lying under oath 3 times. Just because you're worried about this, you don't start these grandiose investigations with a special counsel that has omnipotent power. So it goes on to say that William Barr, and all of this, okay, then he goes, all of this was done basically, so William Barr helps out and intervenes to help out Manafort. He's not being sent to Rikers, the wonderful, nice, kind, justice-oriented holding facility in New York, run by Democrats. Trump wrongly says Manafort's crimes came years before he joined the campaign. And then, see, this is an example of PolitiFact. His major alleged crimes date back to 2006. And then false statements in 16 and 17 with the corrupt FBI officials. But yeah, the bulk, the meat and potatoes, is 2006. You're talking about over 10 years. And then from 2006 to 2014, the election was 2016. None of this had to do with collusion. And what he engaged in is the same activity. Literally, he was working with Clinton's campaign chairman's brother, Tony. All right, give me your thoughts below. Ladies and gentlemen, we're waiting for the Inspector General report, but while we're waiting, we're finding out really amazing things. Like CrowdStrike being giving its information to the DNC and not the United States government. We know that from the Stone court proceedings. And a whole bunch of other revelations. Watch this channel. Thank you so much for helping this channel grow. It's doing well. It's election season, election time. The next year and a half is going to be a roller coaster. And I appreciate your support and your kind words. If you want to support my voice long term, especially with this insanity going on, and my Patreon is below in the pinned comment. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very, very much. Check out my article that was shared by Rush Limbaugh. And yes, I have to bring it up because it's not like a narcissistic thing. Again, you're talking about yourself? Well, you're watching for a reason. My article in the Federalist that was shared by Rush Limbaugh, that is below in the pinned comment. Thank you.